Good morning, this is Daybreak and thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Daybreak, the SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We are discussing the revival of the sugar sector in the country and the interventions made by the national government and also what's happening at the parliamentary level. I have the sponsor of the bill which the National Assembly has largely adopted. Thanks for your time, Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe, the lawmaker representing Navaholo constituency. Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for making time. At the center is Charles Atiang. He is the chair, the Kenya Association of Sugar and Allied Products. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Abdi.
Thanks for your time. Much appreciated. And Dr. John Mutunga is the MP representing Tigania West and also the chair of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture. Dr. Your time is all appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Let's discuss this very pertinent matter that has seen interventions at different levels, including what happened in September during the sugar conference that brought together respective governors. Starting with you, Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe. In your bill, tell us about the status update and what is in it that will improve the welfare of the farmers and generally the sugar sector in the country.
Thank you very much. I want to say, as doctors do whenever we go to visit them, and you tell a doctor that I'm having headache, the problem is not the head. The problem could be somewhere else. So many a times we've been asking, there is no sugarcane in the farms. The problem has not been farmers. The problem has been who is helping these farmers to grow the cane. And the organization in charge of that has been AFA. All this is because AFA has failed. It failed to deliver cane production. It failed to protect the farmer in the field. It failed also to oversee the marketing of sugar. Therefore, from where I sit and where my colleagues have assisted me to be, is that we sought to ask the farmers, and I'm happy one of the farmers is here, to ask what is it that we can do for you to make it better. One thing that is a problem is the funding of the farmer. Another thing that is a problem is the organization of the seed. How do they get the cane, the seed cane? Another thing is that they do not have anyone to inspect them. And that is why in the bill which we passed in the National Assembly, it's addressing the issue of inspection. Those are inspectors who have been brought on board, not just in the farm alone. We will inspect along the value chain. We'll have inspectors in the field. We'll also have inspectors overseeing the marketing of that sugar. How is the sugar going on? It's not just to market, to get the cane produced and leave it. No. Number two, the bill has also, as it is now in the Senate, and which was passed in the National Assembly, introduced the issue of the sugar development levy. And we changed we deviated from the old sugar development levy fund in this position, that it's not just the corporates that can now come for the loaning. We said, let also that farmer who will not have a capability access that funding. And how is it going to work, Ayub? We look at it like there is an institution called Kenya Research Institute, which is in charge of developing the seed cane. How is it going to develop the seed cane? It's going to be funded from the same sugar research. But now when you have developed the right variety to supply, how does the farmer come in? He can easily get to the sugar board, which we have created, and access that new cane variety at a grant or a loan from the sugar board and repay without necessarily going through the millers.
We'll talk more about the content of the bill now passed by the National Assembly, which also seeks in your bill the establishment of the Kenya Sugar Board, the Sugar Development Levy you have mentioned, the Sugar Development Levy, the establishment of the Kenya Sugar Research Institute. Before I come to Dr. Mutunga, Charles, from where you sit, beyond the bureaucracy at the national level and also some of the statements made by the president and what cabinet did, we'll be talking about that. From the farmer's perspective, from the farm level, does this instill hope in you? The bill that Mheshimiwa had passed by the National Assembly, now at the Senate, from where you sit, what's your perspective? Will it address some of the problems that you have over time and consistently outlined?
Thank you, Ayub. I'm very grateful for Mheshimiwa Emmanuel with this bill. As farmers, we are focused and we are very fully supportive of this bill. The sugar sector for a long time, the farmers have never achieved their objective. The farmer is working 24 hours. He's working like a donkey. He farms in the field. He does every finances himself. He takes the cane to the mill. The sugar cane is milled. Sugar is sold. The farmer is not paid.
Okay.
So the biggest challenge is along the value chain. The farmer is the far end. He is the producer. But within the value chain, you find out of 100%, 90% is taken away by other key players. Mm-hmm. Be it the miller, be it the transporter,
okay,
and be it the processor and the marketer. So the farmer is in the tail end. It is our humble belief and hope that the sugar bill, which Mheshimiwa Wangwe has propelled and has really helped us, will help the farmers to get better life in their future.
Mm-hmm. And has enough consultation been done during the drafting? And were your inputs considered, looking at some of the contents of the bill, for example, the reinstatement of the sugar development levy? I mean, was this an aspect that came from you or emanated from you? And how important were your consultations when it comes to the bill that was passed by the National Assembly?
Well, I agree that public participation was widely done, except that time was limited. Like his committee, when he was coming into Nyando Sugar Belt, one day he had a sitting in Kibos Sugar, he had a sitting in Miwani, he had a sitting in Chemelil, and he had to have a sitting in Muhoroni, one same day. So there was no enough time, but I can still say that this bill, it collapsed in the last session of Parliament.
Okay.
So Mheshimiwa brought it. And even whatever we were doing was just a more or less a repetition of most of the things that we had proposed and put in. Mm-hmm. So as far as where I'm seated, on behalf of the farmers, we are satisfied.
Okay.
That public participation was well done, though time was limited. And they normally do that. They come, and when they come, they only give us 2-3 hours. But they always find when farmers are organized. Yeah. So whether we have 1 or 2 people who will be able to make a proper presentation, the key issues that farmers want are always taken care of.
Okay. Dr. Mutunga, coming to you. Of course, you chair a very critical departmental committee of the National Assembly. Mm-hmm. You're not certainly the sponsor of this bill, which was passed by the National Assembly, but talk to me and talk to us about the significance it bears when it comes to what bedevils or the problems that bedevil the sugar sector in Kenya.
This bill comes in to streamline the sector, to support cane development, to revive and improve on the research on the new and better varieties of sugarcane, and also other, varieties, not necessarily sugarcane, because we can have sugar from sugar beet. Mm-hmm. And there is effort in this country. There are trials in parts of central Kenya, specifically Nyandarua, to have, sugar beet as one of the crops that can give us sugar. And then it also comes in to improve on the regulation of the entire sugar industry. It comes in also to help us in management of the crop itself, the improvement of the marketing aspect of the sugarcane. So many things have been captured in this bill. So during our consultations with the stakeholders, we had intensive consultations. Of course, you cannot reach everyone, and you may not be able to give a lot of time. Atiang here has clearly said that, yes, we were there and we could meet 4 institutions in a day. But my committee has 15 members. So what we did, in Western Kenya, we split into 2 groups. My vice chair went with 1 group, and I went with the other group. So we were able to listen to 2 sugar factories and the other people who are associated to the factory. Sugarcane production is basically the latent processing, because you must take sugar to a factory. You cannot sell it in the marketplace. There's nowhere else you can sell. It's fixed. So we want to, first of all, engage the sugar millers, then engage the farmers who supply to the sugar millers, and engage the other stakeholders like those who are the civil society organizations who are involved in this particular space. So I believe this bill is very strong in making sure that the crop development aspect is very well taken care of. And I would say this, I would say the reasons are as follows. First of all, we have expunged the Kenya Sugar Research Institute from the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization, the big agricultural research organization of the country, to become a distinct institute that will basically focus on sugarcane research, development of new varieties, trials of other varieties from other parts of the world, improvements on the sucrose content of the sugar, looking at the technology development, innovations in the sugar industry, and the management practices that are supposed to be also, engaged, because research is about all that. Now, when this research institute focuses on such things, we have also realized the weakness in the sugar industry and basically in the agricultural sector that we do not have enough extension agents. So we say, in this bill, we introduced a training component within the Research Institute. The training is not just taking people through sugarcane as a commodity or as a crop in Kenya. It is basically focusing on what new technologies have been developed over time. How are they useful in which parts of this country? Then what management practices have also been developed? What innovations are there in the sugar industry? Basically looking at the entire value chain from having a good quality variety for planting all the way to the market. Then the other issue is the promotion aspect. We have looked at how can we promote sugar production, first of all, and even sugar export. Because Kenya has capacity to produce enough sugar and even to export. We have looked at all the areas that we produce sugar. The potential in Western Kenya can be intensified at the farm level. We may not have a lot of land, but we have productivity enhancement, looking at the varieties themselves and the sucrose content as a focus. When you go to coastal region, there is too much land and there is so much potential for us to grow sugar. If you go to parts of Rift Valley related to South Nyanza, the Transmara region, the productivity of the Transmara region is about 3 times what you can get in Western Kenya. So the potential for sugar production in this country is immense. So if we focus on sugar production, and looking at research, that's why we separated this research, is to critically think about the issues in the sugar industry and the focus on releasing the varieties. We were surprised to learn that there are 27 varieties of sugar varieties produced by our institutes, and they have never landed to the farmers. So the question is, why are you producing these varieties and they are not assisting our farmers to increase the production? The other aspect that we also focused on, and which I think is very important, is the issue of selling sugar through sucrose content. We have established, as a country, has invested in about 11 cane testing units co-located with the factories. The cane testing unit are important because they have worked very, very well elsewhere. In Brazil, cane testing units, the farmers are not paid as per the amount of sugar. It is the amount of sugar plus the content of the sucrose in the sugar that matters. So that we have done. The bill is very well covered. And the other issue is the regulation. There has been a lot of hullabaloo in terms of who gets what, levies, fees, and taxes, and so on. We have looked at that and cleaned it up completely and made sure that the bill sits well when it comes to county government and national government issues.
And at the moment, you said that we can sustain our own demand, and even to the extent of exporting some out of the country. But so far, we are dealing with a deficit because we're importing sugar. Honorable Wangwe, I'm looking at an aspect here on the stewardship of the sugar industry by the Agriculture and the Food Authority, which has been ineffective since 2013, and which, according to you, has contributed to the non-payment of farmers by public sugar companies. Before we get to the management of this authority, how key has it been, and how considerate were you when it comes to welfare of the farmers in the entire bill, which you have sponsored and now passed by the National Assembly?
Thank you. I would want to say the bill looks at the welfare of a farmer in terms of management of the factory. Why are we not able why is AFA not able to pay farmers or organize, rather lead the payment of farmers? Is because the farmers are not on the table of decision making of their own welfare. And that is why in this bill, we have invited farmers in terms of regions. There are various regions which are going to release their leaders. If lucky enough, Charles here becomes one of, he'll competitively be elected through the process until he gets to the sugar board, which means he's going to form part of the directors of the board. So the decisions that are going to be made shall be inclusive of these farmers. Which are these decisions? We have decisions with the pricing. We have decisions to do with importation of sugar. We have decisions to do with subsidies to the farmers in terms of fertilizer. What has been happening is a farmer gets fertilizer just from the market, and there is nothing like a fair price. So if they are going to have to decide from Nairobi in a boardroom, and they'll be able to maybe source that fertilizer, definitely the economies of scale will apply and the price will come down. And they are also the farmers. So it means if they sit on that table, they will definitely have a better decision for the farmers. That is how coordinated we want them to do.
And when, for example, the bill says a person who ships in sugar shall, prior to importation, provide evidence that the commodity is not available in the market. In this case, is it a preventive mechanism of glutting the market because we already have some variety here?
Yes, it is. And when you read further on that clause, it is the board. Actually, it's the board which will now give statistics of availability of the sugar. So meaning we will not allow anybody to import without the knowledge of the board. In the same clause, which you have read, you look at, it's the board which will decide, under the functions of the board will have to decide to make available data, letting the country to know the availability of sugar. How much sugar do we have? So, and we are cautioning anyone else who would want to import must also get the same information, meaning we are just controlling the sector so that there is no way somebody from a bush or somebody from outside will bring in sugar without the knowledge of the board. And who is this board? The board is the farmers. The representative farmers are on the same board. So it means we are really going to be in charge of the sugar industry.
Charles, that therefore places you at a very critical point. Because the Kenya Sugar Board will therefore approve the pre-importation process of what comes into the country. How do you look at that? Is it going to improve your standards in terms of boosting your morale to produce more to meet the national demand?
Well, I agree with Mheshimiwa Emmanuel. First, when we had Kenya Sugar Board at that time, there was involvement of the farmers in the whole decision making. When we went under AFA, that is the deathbed of the sugar sector. Under Sugar Board, under the Sugar Board, there used to be the funds, Sugar Development Fund. Sugar Development Fund was a big component. Like, the sugar industry, sugar business is a very heavy duty. Plowing heavy, borrowing everything in the sugar sector is heavy. But the biggest aspect by that time was that there was proper financing. There was proper financing both from the government side, from the factories, and from the other financial institutions. So the Sugar Development Levy actually ensured that farmers were able to get supported and they were able to develop a lot more sugar. Now, after the Sugar Act collapsed and we went under AFA. From AFA, I want to tell you, AFA did not fundraise, did not allocate any fund to the sugar sector to date. And also be aware, Abdi, that agriculture is also a devolved function. So you look at all our county governments, they are demanding a big space in the agriculture as provided in the Constitution. But there is no allocation in terms of budget. For example, Kisumu County, this financial year they have only allocated 20 million in agriculture. And 20 million, there is sugar, there is rice, there is all these others. Can it do anything? It doesn't. So for us, coming in of the Sugar Development Levy will be a big boost, and the involvement of the farmer in both value chain will really boost the sector. So we are fully supportive of this, and we thank Honorable Wangwe for the efforts they did, and Daktari for the effort he has done. And for us, we have a hope that as soon as they are done with the bill is now in the Senate. It is our humble prayer that this time round, the senators who are also coming from sugar growing areas and entirely Western should be able to support that bill. I have already seen some of our other organizations already trying to bring in some changes. The moment any clause in that bill is changed in the Senate, it will be deferred back to National Assembly. And that is how as far as the documents are provided to, that's how the last sugar bill collapsed. When it was passed in the last day in the Senate, that was the last sitting, and that was the end of the life of that parliament. So that is how it died. Now, if these amendments are also brought again on board at the Senate level, and Mheshimiwa will concur with me and you that there are about 2 or 3 weeks for them to break for the long recess. When it comes back, that will be the end of that bill.
Okay, I mean, you're talking about more or less disjointed, disjoint between some section of the association, but the members in this case and others. Who are the ones, for example, who are proposing amendments? And have you reached out to them? What are the justifications that they have given you?
One thing, Abdi, I want to come out clear to you, and Mheshimiwa will concur with me, is that the representations of the farmers have been one of the biggest challenges, right from the outgrowers institutions. Even when we used to have Kenya Sugar Board, we used to have the fund. You will concur with me, we used to have funds given to Outgrowers Company. Mumia's Outgrowers Company, Moroni's Outgrowers Company, Nandi's Capital Outgrowers Company, Sony Outgrowers Company. He can tell you the story he had when he came on the ground. This organization went down with billions of money. The perpetrators of those organizations today, some of them are in the Kenya National Federation of Sugarcane Farmers. They have been there for the last 20, 50 years. They don't want to exit, they continue to exist. So that is why we said that the Constitution provides that a farmer should be left free to join an organization of his choice and to belong to an organization if he wishes. So we have several associations. And I want to tell you, my organization, Kenya Association of Sugarcane Farmers, and Kenya Sugarcane Growers Association, and Central Growers Association, and small holders, we have been started with the farmers, and that is where we are. Some of these organization federation dined with the millers when farmers didn't want to be zoned. This aspect of zoning, Abdi, it is part of the biggest problem because you are fenced to a certain mill, you have delivered your cane, they are not paying you. And that is actually where we ended up.
We will talk about zoning because Honorable Wangwe is also passionate about that. And we had this topic also of zoning coming up so adversely when we had the sugar conference in Kakamega County about 2 months ago. Dr. Mutunga, coming to you. When you mentioned the institution which is now distinct to allow a boost in the production of sugar in the country, the bill also seeks, in this case, the provision of the sample of sugar to be imported and a pre-import verification certificate from the country of origin. Is this a way of ring fencing, or protecting farmers here locally? And how will this, in your view, from where you sit, of course, as the chairperson of the Agriculture Committee, make Kenya meet its demand largely when it comes to sugar production?
The pre-testing is a precautionary measure. It's a requirement by an importing country that the exporting country gives the importing country an assurance that they are importing sugar that they know, that they have ordered for, and that they would like their people to consume. So there are competent authorities across that are trusted and, of course, internationally now shared, so that Kenya would engage some of those competent authorities to verify the amount of the sugar that is being imported, to be sure that we are getting the correct, quality of sugar in the correct form. You remember about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when we had the issue of mercury in sugar, and there was ulabalu and all that, and sugar passing through panya roots. So I think that's what we are trying to avoid. We want to make sure that whatever we import into this country is pure sugar and is going to be used fully by our farmers. Secondly, we are trying to protect our farmers through, of course, taxation is one of them. There is the import duty, which is quite high. And the import duty is what the government has been wavering in the recent crisis importation to make sure that we, do cushion the deficit. And then, of course, within the sugar industry itself, to make sure that we can boost production and productivity, we have created a fund. And this fund is silently created within the levy because we've pronounced a 4% levy for import and ex-factory amount of sugar, the value of sugar that is produced. This levy is shared in such a way that 55% remains as a fund that basically is rotating, in the sense that 40% can be accessed by the farmers to basically improve on the varieties, improve on the land preparation, and many other things that they have to do to deliver good sugarcane into the factory. And then 15% can be accessed by the factories for factory maintenance and management and repair and rehabilitation of the factories, because these are machines that run for very many months in a year without stopping, and then at the end of the day, they are stopped for servicing.
Yeah.
Now, this fund again, the levy has given another 15% to research, the Research Institute, the one we are calling Kenya Sugar Research and Training Institute. So that money is being consumed at the Research Institute as part of the resources for the Research Institute, besides what is going to be, appropriated from the National Assembly and any other way of making money.
Okay.
And we have also 10% going to be used by the board, and 5% is going to go to these organizations. And listening to Mr. Atiang, there is something I think they need to resolve at the organization level, what we call the outgrow organizations. They need to have a form where all the sugar organizations can now have an umbrella kind of arrangement. When it comes to representation in the board, we have also been very careful to ensure that farmers are fully represented. And that's why we have come up with catchments. Kenya sugar growing regions have been identified and subdivided into catchments. And these catchments are going to elect one person into the board. So we'll have 5 farmer representatives in the board. We'll have 2 miller representatives in the board, one for private and the other for public sugar factories, and then, of course, the ministry concerned and so on.
We'll proceed when we get back from the break here on the broadcast. Honorable Wangwe, Honorable Dr. John Mutunga, and Charles Atiang. And the hashtag on X is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We welcome your contributions as well, and towards the tail end of this broadcast, we'll be sampling them here on Daybreak, and the discussion continues after the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.